Piers Morgan versus Jada Pinkett Smith. Video Analysis Part 1. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, the David Attenborough of the world of narcissism, enabling you to understand more about narcissists, how they function, what their thought processes are, and how, of course, they interact with other people. And with this video, I'm going to be breaking down some footage that takes place in a short interview section between Piers Morgan, the broadcaster and journalist, and, as you know, not particularly close friend of Harry's wife, and Jada Pinkett Smith. The purpose of doing this is to enable you to see the interaction between two narcissists. Is it a case of narcissists collide with them both vying for position, or does a different dynamic unfold? It will also allow you to understand the various facets of their narcissism in action, noting the way that they behave. Piers Morgan is a narcissist. I have established that elsewhere. He therefore, of course, unconsciously seeks the prime aims: fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. Jada Pinkett Smith, as I have established in the detailed series, which if you haven't already accessed, I really encourage you to do so, is also a narcissist. And again, she unconsciously seeks the prime aims herself. What happens when two narcissists interact in this way? Can they get what they want? Or does it turn into a no-holds-barred brawl in front of the cameras? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's embrace the footage and learn more about what happened when Piers Morgan interviewed Jada Pinkett Smith.
Tell me about the old man. What's he really like?
Just like
Can't be as nice as the guy I just met.
Oh no, he
Got to be a
is.
dark, sinister side to Will Smith. We just
You
haven't
know
found
what?
Yet.
It's not. It's not.
What made,
That's what's crazy. It's not.
What made you fall in love with him?
I would say Will came at a time in my life where he saw beauty in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. And, he saw a diamond in the rough, and he kind of picked me up and blew off all the dust and said, I'm telling you.
Halting the footage after just 36 seconds of the original interview, what do we learn from this segment? Piers Morgan begins by asking Jada Pinkett Smith about her husband, Will Smith. When he does this, he's asserting control in a benign way through his questioning. He isn't cross-examining her, trying to catch her out. He isn't being prying. He's simply asking questions. The fact that he's asking a question and showing an interest in her provides her with fuel from Morgan, who is a non-intimate secondary source, because they probably know one another. It signals that he's demonstrating he's under control, because the questions aren't difficult ones. He's not saying, for instance, would you care to explain to the House why it is that your party has successfully failed to invest in hospitals? There's no challenge about it. It's fluffy questioning, if you will. It's a celebrity interview that's not there to catch her out. By the same token, he's also seeking to assert control over her by eliciting an answer from her. So he's both giving her control, but also seeking to assert control at the same point. Notice that as he's doing so, he's actually trying to put words in her mouth by suggesting certain outcomes, suggesting that Will has a dark side, that he's not really the nice guy that we see. And this shows a degree of arrogance on the part of Piers Morgan, something, of course, that you will have picked up on many times before. And also, he keeps interrupting Jada Pinkett Smith when she's trying to speak, and that demonstrates a sense of entitlement and poor boundary recognition. When he's doing this, he actually starts to threaten her control, but it doesn't get to a point whereby she kicks off about it, because her narcissism, because of the facade light flashing on that control panel, causes her to behave in a way which is not one of nastiness or malign behaviours. And the cold, glacial appearance that we've seen in other footage isn't present in this instance, demonstrating the different type of facade that Jada Pinkett Smith can deploy. In other footage, we've seen it where it's the facade of superiority. I'm better than you. You are simply something on the bottom of my shoe. Here, it's a friendlier facade that she adopts, one of appearing to be kinder. Jada Pinkett Smith's response to the questioning is, it's not, it's crazy, meaning that he has no dark side. Now, of course, we have seen videos of her previously where she has been given Will devaluing behaviour. So why all of a sudden is she being so complimentary? Well, quite simply, it's her assertion of control. At this juncture, there are several things, or several appliances rather, in her world that are on the radar. First of all, her intimate partner, primary source even, Will Smith, who's being mentioned by Piers Morgan. Boom, he's on the radar. Piers is on the radar because he's sat in front of her, a non-intimate secondary source. And of course, she knows she's being interviewed for a television programme, and therefore many non-intimate tertiary sources are also on the radar. Her narcissism must, in that particular moment, assert control over all three groups. Accordingly, she's complimentary about Smith, which keeps him under control, indirectly, by talking about him in a complimentary fashion to Piers Morgan. And he exhibits his agreement, although slight fake exasperation at that, but that signals control has been achieved unconsciously over Will Smith. In the same way that a narcissist will smear to a third party about somebody else, they can also be complimentary. Because she answers the question, she is providing control to Piers Morgan, but also she is asserting control over him by giving him a pleasant answer and not lashing out at him, so that he causes to go, okay, thank you, in essence, by receiving her answer. And of course, by appearing to be complimentary about Will Smith, that makes her seem like she's a pleasant person to those watching. So her narcissism does the job. It manages to maintain control over Will Smith, over Piers Morgan, and over those people that are watching. Of course, you would look at this and think, well, what a hypocrite. So many times you're turning around and criticising Will, and here you are saying that he's a good guy. What's all this about, then? Well, of course, this is the compartmentalisation that the narcissist engages in, and she is readily able to do this because her narcissism is only focused on what's happening in the moment. It doesn't care about what she might have said previously about him. It's not interested in that. They could have had a huge argument in the hotel before coming to the studios, but it doesn't matter. They could have kicked off in the green room beforehand. It doesn't matter. Her narcissism isn't interested in what has gone before unless it can be used to serve a purpose in terms of asserting control in the now. The section moves on, and Piers Morgan asks, what made you fall in love with him? This, again, is a question which both is an assertion of control over her by asking a question, but also exhibiting that he's under control because he's taking an interest in her. Jada Pinkett Smith's response is, I would say Will came at a time in my life where he saw beauty in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, and he saw a diamond in the rough, and he kind of picked me up and blew off the dust and said, I tell you, I'm going to make you shine, girl. Now, Jada Pinkett Smith is evidently hard of hearing, as she was asked what made you fall in love with Will Smith, not why did he fall in love with you. However, 1. This demonstrates her need to make it all about her and not him, which of course is demonstrative of the behaviour of the narcissist. Secondly, her answer is essentially this. I fell in love with him, although as you know, because she's a narcissist, she only thinks that she's in love. I fell in love with him because of the way he fell for me, i.e., he showed he was under control. This met with my approval, and therefore he got my love. She, of course, doesn't know that she seeks control, but this is the manifestation of her unconscious need for control over him. Thirdly, it exhibits her grandiosity. She certainly isn't shy when it comes to blowing her own trumpet.
I'm gonna make you shine, girl.
Well, you certainly did, looking at that rock.
Right,
My God.
exactly. And I was going through a really rough time, and he created a safe space for me to get healthy and to grow and to find myself.
And
that's
how do
what
you
he did
keep
for
things
me.
so... I mean, I keep reading that the pair of you have this sort of fantastic sex life after 14 years of marriage.
You have to. You know, and I know people get so upset about it, but for me...
I don't get it. I get excited by it.
Yeah,
And what I read was that
Halting the footage at 1 minute and 11 seconds into the original footage, what do we learn from this particular segment? Piers Morgan, referring to the fact that she was referring to being a diamond in the rough, references her ring and says, he certainly did, looking at that rock. That is a benign triangulation with the ring. He's complimenting her with reference to the ring, asserting control over her. With this compliment, where she gives that control by responding with, right, exactly, but at the same time, he's demonstrating that he has giving her that control with the compliments. So it's this almost... The relationship is one because they're not fighting against one another, although, of course, they both need control. It's one where he can both seek to assert control of the question, which also demonstrates that he's under control. Her response, by saying, right, exactly, she gives agreement. Piers is showing that he's under control, so she responds favourably to him. He's painted white, and at the same time, she gives him the control that he's seeking. This is where you can have two narcissists that are knocking along without clashing. It can happen, but the point is, it will never last for a very long time. Here, both of them are operating facades, remember. Piers Morgan, although pugilistic, maintains a facade of superiority and in certain instances operates a facade of more friendliness. And here, it's a soft interview. With her, as I mentioned earlier, the glacial superiority facade is not being utilised by her narcissism, and again, it's more friendly. It's almost like good mates just having a chin wag. And these two narcissists, in these limited circumstances because of facade management and the shortness of their interaction, are able to gain what they want from another, control and fuel, and the residual benefit of maintaining their facades without it being problematic, at least so far. Jada Pinkett Smith continues, I was going through a rough time, pity play, and you know, he created a safe space for me to get healthy and to grow and to find myself. This demonstrates Will Smith's empathy with regard to his behaviour towards her, and of course shows us the self-absorption that we've come to know well, where she talks about growth and healing, etc. Piers Morgan then asks, how do you keep things so... I keep reading the pair of you have this sort of fantastic sex life. First of all, the fact that Piers Morgan is able to read about this shows that there's an oversharing by Jada Pinkett Smith, and that demonstrates a lack of boundary recognition. We've already witnessed that previously, of course, as she flexes her narcissistic trait of showmanship by talking about the number of orgasms that she was having, the fact that she would sit and talk about self-pleasuring in front of her daughter and her mother, and therefore it is no surprise whatsoever that she would engage in talking about the fact that her and Will Smith get down to plenty of hanky-panky, and that it's really good. Morgan continues that this takes place after 14 years of marriage. Jada Pinkett Smith cackles, which is a slightly incongruous response, but demonstrates that her narcissism is being well-fueled and that Morgan is under control with this flattering comment. She then states, you have to, I know people get upset by it, so she's smearing those unspecified individuals. But Piers Morgan interrupts, demonstrating lack of boundary recognition, and states, I don't, I get excited by it. Now, some of you may be feeling slightly nauseous at thinking that the doughy-faced Piers Morgan getting a boner reading about the sexual adventures of Will Smith and his wife. This demonstrates, of course, Morgan's oversharing, the absence of his boundary recognition, and it's a benign assertion of control coming from him by flattering her. So already, we're learning about the way that two narcissists can essentially coexist for a short period of time in a mutually beneficial way. The exercise of both facades, and the way that they can both assert control and give control at the same time, along with the various manipulations that you're witnessing. In part 2, we're going to examine further the role of sex in the relationship of the Smiths, and how that is an integral part of the way that Jada Pinkett Smith controls him, as we learn more about the sex life of the Smiths. Join me in part 2 for further analysis.